Jiraiya here, coming at you with another video. I was gonna make one last week, but I got a little sick, and then, you know, one thing led to another, and apparently I had appendicitis. So now, you know, I'm all recovered. Surgery went well, obviously. I'm down a body part, but we're thriving now. We're coming at you with this video now, right? Now, I've been on my Batman kick since Comic-Con, since watching Crusader, right? Y'all know my thoughts on that series. It left me wanting more, at least Batman-wise, maybe not Crusader-wise. I'm still excited to see Season 2, but, you know, for, you know, more thoughts on that, I'm going to link that video in the description below. So, moving on, we're going to be going over Night Cries by Archie Goodwin and The Ultimate Evil by Andrew Vax. Now, both spoiler alert as well as disclaimer alert. There's some pretty heavy, visceral topics coming up. Again, I don't get too deep in the story, but I will be talking a little bit about what goes on, you know, thematically, as well as like just in the story in general, like a very Cliff Notes version of it. So keep that in mind. Starting with now, Night Cries. Essentially, Batman is tracking a serial killer, right? A serial unaliver, if you will, of those who abuse people, right? One of the interesting things is at first they're like, oh, you know, these people were killed. Okay, you know, it's a horrible scene. I'm not going to get into nitty-gritty details. I want to stay monetized on here if possible. If not, whatever. But then another family is unalived, and obviously, you know, this family is clearly doing better in life, and they're like, yo, what is the common thread here? And they realize it's abuse within the family, right? It's domestic abuse, it's verbal abuse, physical abuse, you know, child SA, and again, it's very heavy stuff, right? There was times in both Night Cries and especially, and we'll get a little bit into it, The Ultimate Evil, where it was a little harder to read, right? And I had watched video reviews and you know, kind of story videos on it. I'll shout out to those creators because I don't want to steal their content, but I do want to let them know, it's like, hey, I'm watching you guys' videos. You guys rock, right? But you know, there's moments where like, oh man, like this is not just your typical, you know, the Joker's gonna come out and, you know, shoot a gun that says bang on a flag, right? This is not that. This is serious stuff. And, you know, throughout Night Cries, at least, right, we see a lot of, you know, the cycle of violence, the cycle of abuse, both in Jim Gordon, as, you know, it shows he was abused, right? And he's struggling with being a good commissioner, a good cop, a good father, because, you know, all of that put together, you know, it's hard, man. It's a hard life to live. And the story even shows, like, hey, he's not even doing such a good job of being a husband, right? But, you know, he essentially, by the end of it, he realizes, oh, I need help, right? And there's even a couple moments, because, again, Batman's like the poster child for not abuse, but like, you know, childhood trauma. And someone's like, hey, you know, despite, you know, you seem well adjusted, but you should really, you know, find an outlet, or at least have, you know, talk to a therapist. And he's kind of dismissive about it. He's just like, no, I'm good. I have my own outlet. And obviously, as the fans, we know what that outlet is. We know it's being Batman. Anyways, right. And it turns out, like, again, the serial unaliver, right, is just someone who's seen too much abuse in their life. He's seen too much horror, and for him, he just, everywhere he goes, like, he hears the cries of those who are abused, and he's basically had enough of it, and he decides, hey, I'm gonna take these matters into my own hands in my own way, right? Now, for The Ultimate Evil, it's, again, a little more visceral. There's, you know, the mention of child SA and trafficking, right? But essentially, Batman is trying to take down a trafficking ring, And we see a lot of cases in here where it's like, again, it is such tough subject matter, but you know, let me rewind. He essentially, he's trying to take down a child trafficking ring, and he talks to us in the beginning of the story. He talks to a social worker who talks about how, you know, people aren't born bad, right? People aren't born evil, but, you know, the circumstances of which they're born into, obviously they influence their choices, right? Everybody knows this, right? And I want to make this preface of this next statement of people who abuse others, people who hurt, are often people who have been hurt. Not to say that engulfs everybody, and that's not to say that people who have been abused are going to go on and abuse others. That's not the case at all, right? If anything, it's a small percentage of that actually happening, right? Because, again, it's all about the choices, right? Very Batman Beyond, not Batman Beyond, but Batman Begins of, it's not who I am underneath, it's what I do that defines me. And there's a couple moments where Batman even realizes, like, hey, like, I've been fighting criminals, but I haven't really been fighting crime. And one of the main characters of this story, Deborah Kane, basically says, like, hey, like, if we really want to prevent crime, we have to protect the youth, right? Because if people were born evil, we wouldn't bother with school, education, teaching kids morals, and, you know, protecting their innocence, right? We wouldn't bother. Because if people were born evil, it'd just be like, all right, you're evil, man, let's just lock you away. But that's not the case, right? Now, Batman basically goes through this whole thing, you know, ends up in a place called Udon Kai. You know, this Asian country where this kind of thing, you know, trafficking, all that is very easy to do because of, you know, the corruption of their government, you know, the lax of their laws, all that stuff. And he links up with some rebels who are like, yo, we're all about, like, freeing the children and, you know, overthrowing these evil people. Batman's like, bro, same shit. Let's team up and let's go after these dudes, right? It's obviously more detailed than that, but again, you're going to have to read the story for that. But one point I did enjoy is Batman kind of has a little bit of conflict, in a sense of, like, the ringleader of these traffickers essentially ends up in front of the rebel leader, and the rebel leader is like, yo, for all you've done, like, you deserve to be unalived, you deserve this. And Batman has, like, a chance to save him, right? Because we all know Batman's no-kill rule. But there's a moment where Batman, like, hesitates, and he kind of freezes up a little bit. And it's because, like, you know, the 8-year-old version in his own heart is like, oh my gosh, like what's happening here, right? Because, again, Batman obviously empathizes with children who have been abused, right? Not in a sense that he was abused, but he understands childhood trauma. And one of the things that the rebel leader says that kind of gets him into this state of, like, oh my gosh, like, why am I hesitating, is he says, you steal childhoods from children, right? So Batman, like, that kind of immediately resonates with him. There's other points too, but there's a moment where he's like, I know I can save this guy. But he goes very Batman Begins with it. Again, quoting that movie. He doesn't say this specifically, but it's that moment of, I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you either. And, you know, after Rebel Leader does his business, he unalives, you know, the ringleader. And, you know, the rest of their country is basically being freed by the rebels. Batman returns home to Gotham, and he's kind of has this new outlook on, like, some of the crime, some of the things that happen in his own city. Now, again, that was all very heavy, and I apologize if that was a little much for you. I'm very sorry if, you know, you come away from this video a little more depressed, because those are all real things that do happen to people, unfortunately. And I just want to say, like, hey, you know, if something's happening to you at home, you know, reach out, ask for help, right? If I can, I'm going to put some resources down below. But yeah, it's all very visceral stuff, man. Now, the main reason I wanted to read these was because it was a callback to, like, as much as the subject matter was, you know, very dark, again, it's Batman being a detective, right? Especially in Night Cries, he's truly a detective there, like, trying to figure out what's going on, like, what's the connection here, what are the threads that are crossed and tied and knotted. And it's refreshing to not just see, like, one of Batman's usual rogues gallery villains in there, right? He's battling a sort of evil that, you know, we can all understand, right? If not relate to, we understand what kind of evil he's dealing with, right? It's not just, again, it's not the Joker shooting off his fake gun that says bang before it goes off. It's not the, you know, Mr. Freeze trying to, you know, do whatever for his wife, or Bane trying to take over. These are real things that happen to people, and it's very unfortunate. And I enjoyed that Batman, as much as I love a good old kapow in any Batman comic, right? It's nice to see him be a detective and to go through all these things and have these internal dialogues of, like, hey, like, am I doing enough? Am I doing a good job? Am I overlooking anything? Oh, wait, how have I not seen this before? Like, how have I not thought about this, right? You know, it's nice to see Batman be a detective, right? Because, again, Detective Comics, DC, through and through, baby. And it's nice and refreshing, all that good stuff. But yeah, for me, that was the big ticket item for both these stories, as much as the subject, like the true subject matter was, right? You saw him essentially get out the magnifying glass and try and figure some stuff out, as much as you do see him beat people up. Especially in the Ultimate Evil, he does a lot more beating people up, and you enjoy that a lot. But to see him be a detective is always, I feel like we get more away from that in more modern Batman comics. But, you know, it's neither here nor there, right? The other reason, especially for Night Cries, why I was so excited to read it after, you know, watching a couple videos about it, is the artwork. Man, the artwork is beautiful, brilliant, right? They did such a good job with the artwork. If anything, I should see who illustrated it. All right, Night Cries was illustrated, or the artist was Scott Hampton. Scott Hampton did such a beautiful job of Night Cries, right? It puts you in, like, this somber noir mood of, like, oh, you understand, like, again, the subject material is very depressing, it's very dark, it's very serious and very heavy, and, you know, the illustration, the artwork reflected that. And it was some of the most beautiful artwork I've ever seen in comics, right? At least comics that I've personally read, right? You know, some people say, well, what about, you know, Arkham Asylum, Serious House on Serious Earth? Well, I've watched videos, I've seen the artwork, but I've never personally read, you know, Serious House on Serious Earth. But I've seen the artwork, and yeah, it's pretty good, but I can't speak to that one until I've read it completely. But as far as Night Cries, man, it's masterpiece. I definitely put it up there with one of the best Batman stories, as much as, like, most beautifully drawn Batman comics. So 100% you should go look at it, if anything, at least for the artwork. But again, the subject matter is very tough. Less so in Night Cries, but again, it's very serious stuff. Ultimate Evil was kind of your standard 90s Batman artwork, but I still enjoy it, right? There's a couple moments where Batman's kind of like, it's almost like, is he posing like there's a camera there? Like what's going on? It's a little over dramatic for no reason, but you know what? If I was Batman, I'd be over dramatic and I'd be posing too, all the time. But again, you know, as far as the overall story, like, my thoughts on it, like, I didn't feel like there was egregious overuses of, you know, the subject matter. I felt like it was all written very maturely. It was all written in a way that got the point across without having to do too much, right? Or to do it in a very odd or non-realistic or even an offensive way. I felt like when I was reading it, I was like, oh, okay, like, yeah, man, this is good stuff. Like, I feel like they did a very good job of portraying these types of things and how they happen and why they happen, right? Overall, guys, definitely recommend reading both. Night Cries, actually here, let me rewind. Let me start with the Ultimate Evil. I'd give the Ultimate Evil 8, if not 8.5 Batmans out of 10 Batmans, right? Night Cries, however, solid 9, right? The artwork, the story, the tone, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. 10 out of 10 recommend as far as a read. In terms, again, 9 out of 10 Batmans as far as like my own personal rating. Now, get out there, go read these comic books, enjoy yourself. Don't forget, take a breather if you need to. But I'll probably honestly be back with some Batman movies next, or, you know, this coming week or this coming weekend, unless, you know, I find something else that I'm just like, ooh, I gotta make a video about this. Now, I appreciate you guys and your support. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all again in the next video. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you.